So I figure in this video I'll go over all of the digital games I have on my PS3 and say a little blurb about each of them. So Ark the Lad 2, I haven't played it yet, but um, I'm really excited to play it. I played the first one and it was really good. I love Mega 10 more than I like Persona, but I do like Persona and I want to play more of it, so I really wanted to have more Persona games to play. So here's another one eventually I'll get to. I'm pretty sure this one's like PS3 digital store only. A really obscure game. There were some of those that I bought before the, PS3 e-store shut down. Rather, the PS3, right? So Persona 2 Eternal Punishment. I mean, what more could be said? Probably one of the best Persona games. Many people would tell you that like a more old school kind of game. Really excited to play it someday, more than I have. I used to own a physical copy of it, but then I lost it. So it's really nice to have it for cheap on the PS3 because I think it's like $80 or something, if not more, for the game, physical copy. Suikoden 2 I played last year. It has a big cast of characters, something a la Chrono Cross, and has a lot of replayability because of that. So I would really recommend it. I can see why people say it's an RPG classic. This one has to do with Myst, and there was a PlayStation 1 game that was like that. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head here, but I really like the idea of Myst and it's, turning people into monsters or something as an RPG story. Breath of Fire 4 also has this story dynamic, so it's something that is often visited in RPGs. So this one I kind of wish I had gotten something else instead of House of the Dead 4. It is a really, really good game and it's pretty obscure. That's part of why I got it, but you need an actual gun com or something like that, right, to be able to play this game. At a certain point, you literally cannot go on in the story because you have to have that set up in order to do it. So it's a huge bummer. Otherwise, I thought this would be a really fun game to just play with someone else because it has two-player, functionality. And it's a first-person, rail kind of style shooting game, right? Nobunaga's Ambition Rise to Power is, a tactical role-playing game, strategic and tactical, I guess I would specify, turn-based. That's about the 16th century, as it says here in Japan, where there were a lot of rival warlords vying for, control in the warring states period of Japan. So it's very historically accurate as far as I remember reading. So, would be cool to play. And I played it a little bit. It is pretty fun. Ark of the Lad is a really, really good game. It's really short and sweet. It has a really good story. Um, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this game. I would really recommend it. Sometimes a shorter RPG is really nice. Growlancer Heritage of War, another tactical RPG, because I really enjoy those kind of games. And I wanted, some obscure games like that. So this one's pretty obscure. It's hard to be able to play it otherwise. I haven't played it yet, so I can't really say anything, but it's supposed to be really good. Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoner 2, Raidu Kuzucha. Hold on a second. Kuzunoa, I can't even talk, versus King Abaddon. Abaddon is the basically in Revelation, he is the angel of the bottomless pit, otherwise known as Apollyon, which is kind of this form of Apollo in the Greek where he's not in his chariot anymore, right? And so instead he's in his bottomless pit. And I guess just for some lore here, it does say it's an angel of a bottomless pit. It doesn't say it's a demon or a fallen angel. It says literally an angel. So it's interesting verbiage. Anyway, this is a really obscure game, and it's more of an action based kind of Mega 10 game. So I really wanted to just be able to play one of these kind of games. So I thought it was really worth it to get it as a huge fan of Mega 10. So haven't played it yet. I think I played an emulator or something of a similar game just to get a feel for it, and it's fun, but obviously I like the RPG aspects better. Tokyo Jungle is a digital store only, PS3 only game, so both of those simultaneously. Um, it's kind of an open world sandbox title where you can choose to be whatever creature at the end of the game. You know, like I think I'm seeing a dog as the main title. There's some wolves on the building there. There's some birds flying in the sky. And so it's this survival kind of open world game like that, where you're just around the Tokyo jungle at the end of the world. Really good third person kind of perspective, third creature, I guess you would say. Grandia 3, you know, I have the Grandia collection on my Switch, and I played the first Grandia. It was really good, but it wasn't as good as I, thought it was going to be, I guess. It's a really good game, but it's not like the best old school RPG I've ever played. I wasn't, oh my gosh, this is really something very special. My friend says the second one is better. Another friend says the second one is not better. And then I figured I liked it enough, right? I'm not saying it's by any means a bad, even mediocre, average game or anything. So I'd like to play the second one, then the third one. So when I get to the third one, I figured I would get this one so I could play it. Xenogears is just a phenomenal old school RPG. I would say people just really have to play this game. I used to own it and then I lost it, physical copy, right? And so it's really nice to have some of these games preserved, digitally on your PS3 and get them for a cheaper price. So it was one of those kind of games. I did beat it recently. It was a couple years ago. I mean, compared to how long ago I played it when I was a kid and got to the end of the game and could not beat it, that was really something else. And it's something else to play it when you're older because it has a very, very philosophic, complex, very intricate story that's not easy to understand. This is a really, really amazing game. I can't recommend it enough. It's definitely one of the JRPG old school classics, DeForce. Like, it's just really, really one of the best in my estimation. Along the same kind of lines, Parasite Eve is an often underrated gem, I would say. Obscured, sometimes gem, though I think people have become more knowing of it. It's based off of a book by the same name. I've read the book. It's a very rare book, worth a decent amount of money. So fortunately, they actually had it at my library. And it's about mitochondria, which produces ATP, which is the energy, like the power plant, if you will, of the cell. But it has its own genetic structure separate from the nucleus and its DNA. And the idea is there was this mitochondrial Eve, so that's where the word Eve factors into this game. And she was supposedly our ancient African ancestor, and she began our entire bloodline. And so in the contemporary part of what military science is investigating is mitochondrial science, or however you would like to put this, and literally trying to utilize the energy within this energy powerhouse of the cell. And so what this is about a parasite, that being the mitochondria. You see, it has its own genetic code, and it's a sci-fi horror story where it gains its own awareness and begins to take over the host. Because basically, scientifically, you would say the mitochondria is almost like a remnant of the bacteria, or you could say something along those lines. I don't know. There's many ways, theories, but it is some foreign remnant of something that combined with the cell and has this symbiotic relationship with it. And so this is like that symbiotic host now not being symbiotic anymore and taking control. And that's what mitochondrial Eve in this game, literally her name is Eve, represents. Final Fantasy Tactics, again, another old school classic. Really recommend these 3 games I've just gone through that kind of fall in the similar arc of why I got them. And I'm playing it right now, so appreciating it even more than I ever have. I think I didn't really care for military history when I was younger, and I just, would not be able to appreciate this game the way I can now. So it's actually a really good story, really good gameplay, a really, really solid good game. So check it out if you can, and harder to get a copy of it. I guess they're doing a remake, though, of it now. I would rather play the original. Breath of Fire 4, I love 3, but they didn't have 3 in the store for you to buy. I used to own a copy of 3 and, almost beat it. I think I'd never beat this one either. So 4, again, there's Mist, and it's corrupting people. I've played a little bit into this one on my PS3. Really good game, and it came out towards the end of the PlayStation's tenure, and so it was pretty overlooked, and it's actually a really good game, as many Capcom games are. Dive Kick is a fighting style game. This was through PS Plus. I don't know if I can still play it. It's just like a 2D, fighter, and that's all I really have to say about it. Amplitude was plus PS Plus again. Bleh is where I got this. This is a, it mixes high-speed futuristic racing game with rhythm game is what that one is. So that's why I really like it. I think it's a really fun game. That's a really good one. Zone of the Enders is a mecha combat game, very Japanese. So this was the HD collection. This was PS Plus. I don't know if I can actually go in those games anymore. Same thing with Steriden. This is, an old school vertical, I believe, shooter style game. Pretty fun. Steins Gate was really interesting. This is also a PS Plus game. This was just a graphic novel about time travel, but it had so much detail to it, and it had this dictionary of Japanese words. So as you played the game, they would say different Japanese words, and you'd be able to gain a running knowledge of Japanese culture and the words they use, and also a really fun story to read along with. So this one was really fun if, you were really tired that day and you just wanted to lay back and just watch something that would also engage your mind on some level and make you more familiar with Japanese culture. So this was a really cool one for a PS Plus game. Dino Crisis is, a classic survival horror title that I always mean to play more of. What's really notable about it for me is I love video games where it makes you take out a pen and a paper, and you're sitting there, you're interacting with this game on a very deeper level than just sitting there, picking up the controller and just keep trying to do something. You literally have to put it down and say, like, And so this was one of those games where it definitely had me going, and I would write a bunch of different stuff down in order to figure out the puzzles. And, I love dinosaurs. So dinosaur survival horror, you had me at that point, but also you had me with this game is really involved and it does take some thinking and some, on a piece of paper, kind of just working things out. So really love that in a game. The second one is the next one here. I've never played it. I'm still working on the first one. Velo and I played the first one a while ago, and we both were really impressed with it. The Last Guy is a digital-only, really niche Japanese title that has very shtick kind of Japanese humor. You play a guy in a cape, and it has a top-down perspective like the graphics in GTA 2, I would describe it as. And so you maneuver this guy in the cape around, and you're trying to rescue people from buildings from that top-down perspective. So you're basically this hero that's rescuing people. It's survival horror puzzle game, basically, because you're avoiding zombies and other even more annoying things later into the game. And then you're trying to get them to a helicopter landing pad so that they can get saved. So it's kind of like Lemmings with more of a puzzle aspect, because they'll just like jump off the cliff, basically, so to speak. If, the zombie is there terrorizing them, they'll just scatter and you'll lose your chain of people. So it's kind of like a puzzle game, Lemmings, with this horror kind of, but very B-movie, comedy horror aspect to it. Really good game. Really underlooked gem. To me, it's a Halloween pastime that I would play this and, rescue the idiots with a helicopter. Persona 5. I guess I'm just going to scroll off so we don't have to hear the music as much. Really good game. I've played a decent amount of it on hard mode, actually, and I'm reaching a point where I am really at the point where I don't know if I can, keep doing much with it unless I really sit here and grind or figure something out. But it's hard to grind in the game because when you get attacked by enemies, anemones, right, then nematocysts and other such terrible things. But you have to be in this kind of other world where you're like in this fully psychological world, I guess you would say, like Persona, right? It's a psychological term. So you're like within this world, and then you can actually gain experience. And when you leave, it's a lot less dangerous, and you're doing more sim kind of things, like going to school. Later Persona games implemented more of this simulation aspect where you're doing different things. You're not just doing an RPG aspect. And it's a really, really good game. It has these cell-style graphics, very distinctive, graphical style, and then very distinctive musical style. It's like this acid jazz that's got this very Japanese kind of cyber beat kind of aspect to a really good soundtrack. Metal Gear Solid VR missions. I have the Metal Gear Solid collection, and as part of that, you got digital copies of some of these games. I've played a bit more of VR missions, actually. It's pretty fun, honestly. It's a really challenging but fun game, and there's 300, as you may read here, VR missions. And they really are, it's a smorgasbord. It's like the WarioWare of MGS or something. There's just so many different kind of missions you'll be doing. And I think it summarizes it well. There are murder mysteries to battling giant genome soldiers, and everything in between. Metal Gear Solid, played it around when it came out back in the day, revolutionized the video game genre, gave it more of a cinematic flair. Hideo Kojima is brilliant. He's one of the most brilliant, genius, intelligent video game designers I've ever seen. I don't have the right words to adequately describe his contribution to video games, and this was really the first Metal Gear game I played, and was really his breakthrough hit. I mean, Metal Gear on the NES was good or whatever, but this game really showed how you could bring a franchise to a new level and yet still make it seem like it's the same franchise and just kind of make it even more of what it was before. He single handedly seems to have developed the stealth espionage genre, basically, and given it a cinematic flair, and this is the beginning of that. This is an amazing, amazing game, one of my most favorite. So there's just so many moments in there that are so memorable about this game. I can't even. I need to stop talking about it because I could go on. Silent Hill. It's pretty expensive as a physical copy. I think Silent Hill 2 is my favorite, but having played Silent Hill more, this is a really great beginning title to the series. So I don't know what more could be said. It's a pretty well-known title. People that love it, love it. People that don't like it, don't like it, and whatever in between. Symphony of the Night, probably my favorite Castlevania game if I'm factoring in nostalgia. This is a really, really amazing game. I love the idea of Alucard, Dracula in reverse. That's the lead character. And he, is basically has big daddy issues, and so badly that he's actually going to daddy's castle and throwing down with daddy. So it's a really, really good story. Usually you play a Belmont or something, people that fight the vampires. But in this case, you're playing a vampire that has turned against his father. And that's an amazing story to give to this entire mythology. Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. I have a really dear friend of mine who would play this a lot when I was a kid. It's a third perspective puzzle and action with platforming elements. Really good game. And you play, a vampire named Raziel. And again, it's a similar theme to kind of the Castlevania one, where he's trying to get vengeance against his own people, against vampires. Blood Omen Legacy of Kain was the title that started this series. That was pretty much the second title in the series I had, just talked about here. This one's really good too. It has more of a PC feel to it, whereas the other one was made for consoles. So there's like pointing, there's clicking, you're just moving him along, like something like Diablo 2 kind of graphics or something like that, and that kind of presentation. It's a really good game though. Just, you have to really enjoy old school sensibility. I think a lot of newer school wouldn't like the older sensibilities of it and would just be like, nah. So maybe it's not for their taste. Maybe they could give it a try. I don't know. It started the series though, so I think it's something. This is, an entire collection of Devil May Cry. It's a really good series from Capcom where you're a demon hunter named Dante. And it's, a platformer, hack and slasher, gunner. It's a very hybridized game, a lot of different layers to it. But it has that Capcom, you build your skill with what you're doing and you get better at it and keep getting rewarded for it kind of thing that keeps you going. So I figured I might as well have a bunch of these games to play at some point. They're really fun. Resident Evil Remake. I have, Resident Evil Deadly Silence, or DS, on the DS, which is a restyling of Resident Evil for the mobile console, and I figured I wanted the remake. It's actually a really, really good remake. They added new zombies called Crimson Heads in there that really adds something more to it that gives it almost this nemesis quality at times, I guess. Because you really don't expect them in the way that they present them to be there. And if, hopefully I didn't spoil anything for anyone, but I guess I might put in there this might be a spoiler. I would love for people to just play the game and not know what to expect and just had played the first one, the original one, right, and do the remake of it and not know what to expect. And, that was what was really good about it. It was terrifying to deal with the Crimson Heads for the first time. Resident Evil 2 is just a classic. I think I like it better than the first one, honestly, but I'm pretty biased. I played a lot of the second one. Or I really like the urban setting, that they brought the survival horror genre to really this new level with RE2 that I don't think we had really seen before. It's my favorite knife system in any Resident Evil game I've played. I've played up to 7, um, so I've played every single game in between, and I think that this is the best knife system. There's an up strike for when they're the closest to you, mid strike for when they're about midway or halfway from you, and then downward strike from when they're the furthest away. And one of my ambitions is to perfect, or I guess we won't say perfection because that's to be Satan. We want to be a good Christian. We just want to be really good at this game, knife only, because we love this game that much. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. I played it some years ago. I never played it when I was younger. I didn't really care for the idea of we're just going to have a revisiting of the same thing of RE2 and from a different time frame and a different context. But this is actually a phenomenal game, and I would highly recommend it. It really brings some interesting, almost roguelike aspects to the game. There's different paths you can take because it's an urban setting, so it gives that sense that if you were actually in this urban environment, you would have this many choices, right? So which one do you think you would do? And you can then play the game a second time and be like, I know what happens, if I go that way. So why don't I go this way this time and see what happens? And then maybe you just decide to start over again and that the way you went the first time was better. So it has this it's not exactly roguelike, but it has enough complexity of different choices that it gives the feeling that it is a roguelike, and then there's a difficulty setting, and it is, I don't know, Resident Evil 0 on hard is ridiculous. People don't talk about this enough, so I guess I have to go on a limb for 1 second here. RE0 on hard mode is freaking a challenge. And if you think Code Veronica is harder or something, like there's literally people that think that, I would really ask you to sit down and actually play RE0 on hard mode. So RE3 hard mode is pretty damn hard. And I don't know, I'm arguing with myself, I guess debating whether I think RE0 or RE3 are the hardest. But it's hard to really decide, and I haven't played every game on hard, but many of them I have. It's really a focus of mine is to play every Resident Evil game on hard and at least get a D, at least pass. It's usually all I get. I get to the end screen and I'm like, okay, so yeah, I definitely lost, almost. I definitely have the lowest grade, don't I? And it's about usually what happens, especially with RE0. Literally had to go back to an earlier save and start from there because that's how hard the game is. So aside of that, Nemesis is in this game. I guess I don't want to be too spoiler heavy here. So really malevolent, nefarious, and just kind of this feeling that you're looking over your shoulder all the time in the game. They did a really good job with this game. And the remake does not do this game justice. I would tell everyone that thought they loved the RE3 remake that's a new school gamer that never played this game, you have to sit down and play this game. Because the original is so much better. They did not capture how good the original is. The thing is, the original is much more of a slow burn within this really hyper-vigilant action context. They got that hyper-vigilant action context, blah, but they really didn't give you all these different choices you could make. They really didn't give you that same feeling of dread. I can't express how... This is the game that has made me feel the most dread playing it of any survival horror title. And I played that one Alien first-person perspective one where the Alien, the movie series franchise, it's within that, right? It evolves. It's a very intelligent AI. So, it's very dreadful. but would really recommend this. Again, one of my specific ambitions. Hold on a second. One of my specific ambitions with this title is to defeat Nemesis every time you deal with him, because you get special weapons parts if you do it on hard mode. And all I have to tell someone that they're going to do that is this is probably, I would say, if you were telling me I had to choose, this is more difficult than RE0. So have fun with it. RE4, I owned it on the PS2 back in the day. I don't have the physical copy anymore. I think it's a little overrated as a game, and I don't like that they took more of an action direction with the franchise. But it is a really good game for what it does. It's just that I would have rather had an old school or more of a survival horror title. And it has enough survival horror aspects that it's good. I'm not saying this is a mediocre game or anything, but I'm just saying I'd rather play an old school Resident Evil title any day. And, that's really saying something. So I guess I'll just leave it at that. But a lot of memorable things about this game. I played it when it came out, so I guess I just felt it was a little derivative with the Metal Gear Solid style codec conversations. But I guess it was also a nod to Kojima on one hand, just being like, yeah, we know what really shaped video games. So I don't know. I have mixed feelings. Code Veronica X is this is the best story maybe. If I had to choose right now, I would say this has the best story of any Resident Evil game. And it has that old school sensibility for a Resident Evil title. But it has that feeling of like, I guess RE6, where on a smaller scale because they couldn't do as much, but you feel like you're doing this epic game where there's all these different things that happen and you're in these different locations. One location is Antarctica. One is this prison, this remote prison. So there's a lot of different places that you go to. And in the original Resident Evil, you were just in the mansion, you know. And so by the time of Veronica, now we have something where we're going to all these different locations. And yes, we're in some specific location within these areas, but it's different. It has really good puzzles. There is a more difficult mode you can play of it that is pretty challenging. And I can see why some people think this is, this is one of the more challenging ones. Sure, if you play it on a harder setting, but yeah, the story is wow. And I don't want to ruin anything for anyone, but what a good story to this game. So I would say if you like Resident Evil and you haven't played it, check it out. I don't think they need to remake this one. I don't understand how you could make it any much better, really. And I don't like it when they do something different with the game and remake it, really. RE2 Remake is a really good remake, for example, because it doesn't really change the game so much as just kind of update it for what it could do now with the graphics then. And RE3 Remake sucks comparatively to the original because it doesn't at all capture the essence of the original. It just kind of gives you, in my view, a cheapened thriller version of it, something that was like this prolonged thriller that you were just like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. Is it really time to kill this thing again? RE0, I think, is a really, really good game because it's a more recent game, but it's very old school in the way that it presents itself. And it takes a big risk with the fact that you can carry items and then just drop them willy-nilly on the ground, and you don't have to use a box. It presents its own type of distinct gameplay difference that takes getting used to, and you'll find that you leave things dropped off somewhere if you're just getting used to this system and wonder why the hell you dropped it there. Because you'll reach a point where you have to go all the way back, and now there's more things to have to deal with to go all the way back to get that item that you just left laying on the ground. You know, it's really a great game. And then it has a two-character system, and you control both at the same time. And you can choose at any time to just go off on your own. You can switch between either character whenever you want to. There's a hard mode in the game. It's arguably the hardest Resident Evil game. It's a prequel, so it explains some of the stuff that led up to the original Resident Evil. It has a really good story, honestly. I love the story of Marcus, the mad scientist, and everything. This is a damn good game, and I don't think it gets enough credit. So I've played it on hard a couple times, is how much I love this game and how much I guess I'm a masochist, because it's not easy on hard. Like, if you want to get better at Resident Evil, play this shit on hard. And then get back to me. Life is Strange takes place in Oregon, which is actually where I live now, and I played it before I lived in Oregon. It actually really captures the essence of Oregon pretty well for the uninitiated. It's a story about this, young woman, I would say, that's going to be a photography major out of college, make-believe university in a make-believe Arcadia Bay, and she has the power to control time. She suddenly realizes at the beginning of the story, and so then everything else kind of follows from there without ruining anything. This is a really, really good Squeenix title. It was also developed by Don't Nod Entertainment. Just a very distinctive, good game where your choices create a butterfly effect, and you can decide to go back and do different things if you rethink what you're going to do. So Shadow of the Colossus is a really, really good PS2 title. I really love this one. It's a very simple game, but it has a lot of elegance within that simplicity. There are these different colossi, plural colossus, these giant things at different points, and it's this kind of ancient story of, you need to go to them and get all these different items and do this thing and save the region. And it sounds really basic, but battling with colossi is something else. None of them are going to be defeated the same way. Each of them has a very specific way that you have to defeat them. It takes a lot of testing and a lot of figuring out. So it's almost like a puzzle game, an action game. I don't know how to describe it. Like, it's not heavy on the puzzle. It still just feels like this very free-form action style. You're roaming around this region. It's been a long time since I played it, so it's hard to really get out of it. But yeah, that's everything I have on my PS3. A lot of this was bought last minute because, they were going to get rid of the eStore pretty soon after that. So let's go ahead and give this a shot. See, that's what I figured. So unfortunately, I can't play that anymore. I wonder if I resubscribe to PS Plus if I'd be able to. Pretty sure it'll say no again. I guess we were just being a scientist for a second, gonna try it. Okay, so yep, that's everything. Hopefully it was an enjoyable video.